on here. Am I on? Can you hear me? So good morning. And I kind of laugh. I love talking at Unity churches, and I have to make a confession because I'm not wearing what I usually wear. It's the only church I can speak at and wear my tie-dye skirt. But it's not as packable. I've been traveling since a week ago Thursday, and in fact, met some wonderful people in San Diego at a training who have sent their brother and sister-in-law here, which is very exciting. So thank you for all of you for being here. I'm curious, how many therapists or psychologists or helpers are in the room right now? Okay, so I don't know if this happens for you, but when someone asks me what I do, there's three things that usually happen. One, their eyes light up like, oh, I've got a psychologist or a therapist right here to talk. Is that true? Part two is that they're like, oh, and they run like hell. Which I'm going to teach something about hell in just a second. And then the third part is they will go, ooh, I probably need one of you, but I'm going to exit the side door anyway, so they're more polite about it. And I want to teach this. I don't know if you know this. I'm kind of a word junkie, and I looked up the word hell for one of the books that I'm writing. Does anybody know what the original meaning of hell is? The original meaning of hell is to keep hidden. That was the original definition of hell. And so when I talk about soul health and when I talk about the soul's rebirth and aligning yourself with radiant living, it's really about uncovering all of those parts of ourselves that we keep hidden. So this permission song was beautiful. It was the perfect match for what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm not your psychologist today. I'm actually a soul specialist. And what does that mean? And how many of you use the word soul on a regular basis? Fantastic. How many people around you, where you work or out in the world, do you hear using the word soul? So Unity Church, which is fabulous for those of you who raised your hands, that's beautiful. I really believe we need to get the soul mainstream again. We have become so misaligned. Our country right now is very misaligned because we've lost our soul. And so how is it that we get back to that? And it's the rebirth that we have to go through in order to get there. So how did I come up with and how did I get to this point of understanding the soul? So I'm going to take you back to when I was 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, I should ask this, how many of you were recovering Catholics? I grew up in a family of 5 kids, the traditional larger Catholic family. I actually loved the ritual. I loved the ritual of the church. And then I realized every time the sermon happened, I literally would kind of zone out, but in fact, I was zoning in internally. And then as soon as we did the sign of the cross, I'd zone back into the service. I'm sure many of you had that experience too. But when I was 9 years old, I don't remember anything happening before that time that shifted my life. At 9 years old, came home from school one day, found out my dad had had an accident. And that accident, he was a person who was very well known in the community. He actually built cities. He was the director of economic development. And he literally went in, found a plot of land, worked with the community, built the cities, got businesses coming in, got residences coming in. He was very well known. What happened, though, was that at 9 years old, I had my first, to me, awakening, because my observant brain got kicked into full gear watching the disintegration of his life and watching the disintegration of the family, because he was, again, the typical traditional person that was holding the family together at the time. Fast forward to the age 21. When I was 21, 2 days after my 21st birthday, my father was put in the hospital for multiple organ failure. He had never quite recovered from his accident. He had a broken leg, broken hip, collapsed lungs, head injury, broken arm. I'm probably missing some things. At 9 years old, I didn't know he almost died. They didn't tell me that until several years later. But at age 21, when his life disintegrated, and I was standing in the hospital spending time with him, my next major rebirth happened. And what that was on Christmas Day. My birthday was December 6th. December 8th, he was put in the hospital. On Christmas Day, we found out he wasn't going to make it. What was really interesting about that day is he loved Christmas. It was his favorite day of the year. We find out that he's passing. So what happens was that as the Catholic family, my mother had called the priest. I was standing on his right side. She was on his left side. He was on a ventilator. He could not talk for those 17 days that he was in the hospital. But when he saw that priest walk into the room, he knew what was happening. Up until that point, he did not realize how bad off he was. But because he was on a ventilator, he couldn't say anything. And as soon as I'm going to try not to cry when I say this, because it was such a powerful moment for me. When he saw the priest walk in the room, his eyes didn't shoot to my mom. His eyes shot to me. And our eyes connected at such a deep level that I, for the very first time ever, saw a person's soul. It wasn't his human condition that was broken. It was his soul that had been broken many years before. There was something deep within him that had broken to the point where he didn't feel as a human he could get it back. So he squeezed my hand, we looked, he had the moment of recognition, priest did the blessing. Within a few hours, I think he knew he needed to let go because he slipped into a coma. So that was about 11 o'clock that day that the priest came in. Probably about 4 or 5 that afternoon on Christmas Day, he slipped into a coma. 7 o'clock-ish, we went home. Nurses said, go get some rest. This could take a few days. We're not really sure. 1:15 in the morning, I had this dream that I was sitting there talking to my dad in a room, conference room, just talking casually, and in the dream, the lights go out. And I start calling to him. And I'm like, Dad, you still there? Dad, you still there? And then outside of my dream, the phone rings. I pick it up. Nurses say, you need to get back down here. He's going. So that would, I get really emotional in Unity churches because there's so much love in these places. So thank you. So that was a key moment and another rebirth for me because I understood that the soul is much bigger. The soul only births once. The soul only births once. It's the human condition. It's our humanness that continues that birthing process. But what we have to do is we have to learn how to work in tandem with our soul through this human thing that we are all experiencing for our souls to evolve and for us as humans to feel radiant. Do you get that? And how hard is that? It's immensely difficult. So fast forward from 21 to age 27. I was in a therapist's office and I was finishing up my graduate work. I was almost done. Was about ready to graduate, and I was telling her, it feels so strange for my father not to be here because he was the one who always supported my crazy career ideas no matter what they were. And at that moment, there was another awakening going, oh, that's what his soul's role was in my particular life. It was probably different for other people, the other people in my family, but that was his role. Fast forward, and I'm showing you what rebirth is as we go, but fast forward until I was 43 years old. I had published my book probably within a 3-4 month period. I was on about 76, 78 radio shows. And one of the radio hosts asked me, well, what happened in your life? How did you come up with this idea of soul health? And this is one of those things that intellectually sometimes we're not connected with our soul. Because I said to him, no one's ever asked me that question. And I told him the story of my father in the past several years. And I said, I realize now, in this very moment, that my soul was birthed for the first time when he had his accident. My human part of my soul, because that was when consciousness woke up for me. And I told him his death was what rebirthed my ability to talk to other people about the soul. So we have to see in a bigger scheme, and that's what's so beautiful about Unity churches, is that you do see beyond what's at face value. You make use of it in your lives. So I'm going to teach you something that I teach clients, and I also teach workshop folks and anybody that I can get my hands on because it works so beautifully. And after I'm done talking, I'm going to lead you into a meditation to take you further into this. But what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and close your eyes. And my request is that you uncross any body part. So if you're crossing any body part, from an energetic perspective, you're blocking some energy. So stay as open as possible. And I'm going to teach this in just a couple very quick ways, because this is the way to access the voice of your soul. So, in just a minute, I'm going to have you take a very slow, deep breath in, and I'm going to have you release it with an audible sigh. And I know that sounds goofy, except this is Unity Church, and you're used to that. So it's beautiful. So we're going to do this 3 times. Take a deep breath in, blow it out with an audible sigh. Okay, the next time you do this, I want you to watch within you where that sound is coming from. I want you to focus on that spot. Take a deep breath in, audible sigh. Good. I want you to tune that dial one more time. So take in that breath, audible sigh. Now I want you to focus on that deepest space within you, from where that sound just came from. Now there is no physical place in the body that the soul resides, but that sound, which is energy, is the closest thing we can get to identifying the energy of the soul. Now I'm going to give you one more tip. With your eyes closed, bring your eyes down to the floor as if you're looking at your feet or looking at the floor. And now let's take a deep breath in, audible sigh. Do you notice the difference? Do it 2 more times. Deep breath in, audible sigh. Keep those eyes down. 1 more breath in, audible sigh. Good. Now, in just a minute, I'm going to lead you into meditation. So you can go ahead and open your eyes if you would like, or you can keep them closed if you would like to hear this through your soul. I am not offended if you're closing your eyes at all. So what soul health means to me is a level of consciousness about every single aspect of our lives, every single time that we have an ache or pain, emotionally or physically. Soul health is what we do with that. Because our human condition is very complicated, it's very difficult. And when I created the soul health model, of course I created it as the tree of life with 10 branches. But those 10 branches are the human condition. The soul part of it is how deeply we want to live, how deeply we choose to take our lives, and how radiant we want to be, which is why we have to be willing to take that step to rebirth ourselves in every single moment. Sometimes we expect those moments, and sometimes we don't. Those bigger experiences I shared with you, I didn't expect to have those awakenings when I did, but I was open to them. I was very ready to receive, and that is the thing about the soul's consciousness and the soul's evolution, is we have to be ready and willing to receive those messages at any given time. So I want to share something about my mom's passing a few years ago. My mom's anniversary of her death is coming up on September 4th. Had a whole lot of other experiences with her, but I want to share this one because this proved to me, I already knew it, but it proved to me that the soul exists. So my mother's health, she was 86 when she passed. She had just turned 86. So she lived all those years beyond my father's life. And what was very interesting was my mom was not a very soulful person. She was still very Catholic. She still did her rosary every night. Even in her hospital bed, she had her rosary. It brought her a lot of comfort. But what was really interesting is she watched how I was transforming because of my work. She loved the fact that I published the book Soul Health, but she never read it. She liked the picture. She liked having it on her coffee table. But what was so beautiful at the end is that I saw her soul start to emerge, physically and emotionally. I saw it. And the most beautiful confirmation of this was that the very last time, I live in North Carolina, she was still in Colorado where I grew up. For those last 2.5 years of my life, I was flying back and forth, sometimes on a drop of a dime, because my sister and my brother thought she was going, and I'd get out there, and my mother always responded to me the most. I was the youngest of 5, but the oldest soul of all, if any of you understand that. And I also, for those of you who understand reincarnation, which is probably a majority of you, I do past life regression work, but I found out that I was always my mom's mom in past lives. So I realized my job was to teach her how to love in a different way, how to be open. So the last time I went home was the weekend of her 86th birthday. I wanted to be there. She did not want to celebrate it, but I had to be there for me and for her. What was really beautiful is there's so many things that happened that confirmed that she knew she was going. She also knew that she was scared because she had so many regrets, which many of you probably have seen that in others. But all she wanted me to do, she was pretty much bedridden at that point. All she wanted me to do was sit by her hospital bed and hold her hand. That's all she wanted me to do. And so I would do that. And one of the first nights I was doing that, I was sitting there holding her hand, and she had her hand kind of under mine. And she would jerk, and she would kind of wake up, look at me, she'd smile, and she'd go back to sleep. And I'm sitting there for hours going, okay, I'm going to hold her hand. What am I going to do? How do I spend my time? But I had my phone on my lap, and one of my friends texted me and said to me, hey, how are things going? You know, I'm feeling for you. I want you to know I'm there with you in spirit and love. And I said, you know, and I was texting this. I did not say this out loud. And I said back to Kim, my friend, I said, I think my mom's soul is testing leaving her body. Because she jerks, she looks at me, she settles in, she goes back to sleep. She's been doing that all evening. And my friend had just lost her mom a year before, so she's like, oh, okay, well, maybe that is happening. Next morning, I had gotten my mom up for breakfast, cleared the table. She was sitting in her wheelchair. I was sitting on the hospital bed. As a lot of people are at end of life, she was foggy. She was very foggy, coming in and out. She was kind of starting to see other spirits that were kind of waiting for her. So some of her communication was not clear. But she stopped. She looks at me straight in the eyes. She said, Katherine, I have something I want to thank you for. I thought she was going to thank me for breakfast. And she leans in from her chair and she says, I want to thank you for telling me helping me understand what my body was doing last night. And I'm sitting there going, I did not say those words out loud. How in the world did she know? And if I had my wherewithal, I would have had a conversation with her about that. But I said, you're welcome, Mom. I'm so glad that helped you. And she said, it did. I appreciate it, and I love you. And she kind of went off into her fog again. And I'm sitting there going, there's the confirmation that soul is there. And she wanted to help give that gift to me before she passed. Another rebirth for me. It was a confirmation for me to know our souls are here to evolve even in the last moments of life. And her love came out so much more in those last few days. Her ability to share, her ability to open up, her ability to just be present was so much more rich than it had been. And that's what we do. We are supposed to learn right up to that very, very, very last breath. So I'm going to take you into that meditation. I'm going to take you into that breathing again. So get yourselves comfortable. Hopefully no body parts crossed. And I'm going to take you on a little journey of your soul. And I'm going to help you realign or align maybe for the first time some things that need to be aligned for your own radiant living. So go ahead and close your eyes. We're going to do some soul size while everybody kind of gets ready here. Close your eyes, bring your eyes down as if you're looking at the floor. Let's take that slow, deep breath in. Audible sigh. Tuning into that soul, that deep energy within you. Take another slow, deep breath in. Audible sigh. Good. Good. One more. Slow, deep breath in. Audible sigh. As you tune into that deep space within, that soul space, ask yourself gently, what is it that I need to align in my life? What is it that I've been ignoring? What is it that I've been putting off to the side to do later, and yet I keep getting nudged from deep within? In what ways have I not been showing myself the ultimate love in moving forward? And most importantly, how can I love myself more in this and every moment forward? Because if we really want to evolve, we have to learn self-love. We have to get ourselves to that space where we love and honor and cherish and adore ourselves as we vow to others. The soul is the essence of who we are. It is the very essence of who we are. And in relation to Source, all we are is an energetic extension of the essence of Source itself. So if we want to transcend this human thing, we have to do self-love no matter what. Hold that in your soul for just a moment. Let's do just a few more of those wonderful soul sighs. Take a deep breath in. Audible sigh. Solidifying everything you just heard from your very own soul. One more breath in. Going even deeper. And a final deep breath in.